Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Kind Health Group YouTube and podcast. Today, we have a great guest with us. Todd Lane, MBA, is the President and Chief Executive Officer for California Coast Credit Union, a $2.5 billion credit union based here in San Diego. Previously, Mr. Lane had served as the Chief Financial Officer for California Coast Credit Union since 2009, and he also serves on the Board of Directors for the Neighborhood House Association, SDSU Alumni Association, and the Cal Coast Cares Foundation, which provides grants and scholarships to schools, students, and educators in San Diego and Riverside counties. Mr. Lane received his BS in Finance from San Diego State University and his MBA from Pepperdine University. Wow. Thank you, Todd, for being here. We have lots of questions for you.
I'm happy to be here and bring them on. Hopefully I have answers to some of them.
Okay, it's okay if you don't. Well, a lot of us don't have answers to a lot of questions these days, so we understand. And then also with us today, hosting the interview is Angie Lake Castellanos, our Director of Operations at Kind Health Group. Hi, Angie.
Hi, hello. Yeah, thank you, Todd. So, I think as Dr. Nanos kind of started it off, there's lots of information coming out and it's coming out very rapidly. I know for us on, the medical side of things, we're just spending really every day kind of digging through and dissecting and trying to get out the best information. And that's obviously happening definitely in the financial world as well. And so I think, to kind of start the conversation, maybe just discussing a little bit of the importance between the financial health and the impact it can have on the physical health, because ultimately the two do really go hand in hand. And, we're obviously very interested in the health side of things and anything that can impact that positively or negatively.
Yeah, you know what, I think you're right on. Our financial well-being is so important and it plays so much into our physical well-being. We see a lot of consumers in the United States don't have any savings. 2/3 of our consumers don't have any savings in case there's an emergency that comes up. And guess what? We're in the middle of an emergency here. And so we are seeing a lot of our customers, which we call members, that have a lot of anxiety and have a lot of stress, and they're reaching out for help. And sometimes we're seeing behaviors that we normally don't see in our branches or on the phone from consumers, from our members, because of that stress that their finances are having. And you mix that with the fact that many of us are working remotely, if we're working at all, and being in close proximity to our family, 7/24, those, that's a recipe for poor physical health. So we think the financial health is an important part of it. And we try and help our customers, our members, with the financial health part. And I think we're doing a pretty good job so far.
Great. Yeah. I mean, again, from the health side of things, everything contributes, to our emotional and physical health. We're excited to kind of dive into several questions I know that are on our minds, are on, I'm sure, consumers and your members' minds. So what are some of the things that California Coast have you guys done to assist members and employees kind of during this difficult time right now?
To assist our employees and our members. So really, first of all, I should say that we see helping out our customers and helping out our members, they go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other. And so we don't always see that in other financial institutions, but we are paying very close attention to both our employees. So we have about 600 employees, most of which are here in San Diego County. We do have some in southern Riverside County. And so in terms of our employees, we have really been out there early and often with the message that we got you during this pandemic, during this crisis. We're going to pay you regardless of your situation. We're going to, if you have to, if you're at home sick, or if you're quarantined, or if you're having childcare issues, and you have to be at home teaching your child instead of at work, we're going to pay you. And if you don't have sick leave, and we have another fund of sick time for good attendance, if you've run out of all of that, we're still going to pay you. We're going to give you more days, more time, because we understand your priorities and your physical health. So that's the first message that we've been sending to our employees. We've also, for the frontline employees and our non-exempt workers, those that are earning an hourly wage, we bumped everybody's pay up a couple dollars an hour just to help out. A lot of times we hear stories from our employees where they have a family member who's been impacted by this, their employment has been impacted by it, perhaps they work in the service industry or something like that. And so we feel compelled to help them so they can help their family. Again, those things go hand in hand. And then the other thing is we're paying for all of our employees' medical premiums, their dental and their vision premiums during this crisis. So we actually started this about 2.5 weeks ago. I guess it's maybe 3 weeks ago. And we went to our board of directors because this is costing a fair amount of money. But we have been prepared for this rainy day. Our organization has. And so we went to the board and asked them for this, to do these special things for our employees. And man, they were quick to say, absolutely, let's do it. And then there's a ton of other things we're doing. We're buying them free lunches every day. And it's just stuff like that. We have most of our branches open, 24 of 26 branches are still open. So we're making sure that they don't have to go out and get lunch, that they can stay in the branch and social distancing, and we're bringing in lunch for them. And then we have a skeleton crew here at our headquarters in Kearney Mesa. We're doing that same thing for. And then there's a myriad of other things that we're doing. And then the other side of it is helping out our members. So we have about 200,000 members or customers in the San Diego County and Riverside area, and a lot of them need financial help. So we're doing a lot of things that you see some other banks and credit unions doing, payment deferrals on mortgage payments for 90 days, on consumer loans like car loans, credit card loans, stuff like that. We're deferring payments for 60 days, and we're probably going to extend that. And then we have emergency loan programs. A lot of people need cash like right away. And so we're making sure that we can get them cash right away, 0% interest, trying to help them out as much as we can. Everybody who has a credit card with us, we actually raised their credit limit immediately by $1,000 just so they had a little bit of extra during these times. So lots of things going on.
Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Incredible. Yeah.
It sounds like you're taking your own financial advice and that your plan works there. So that's great news. And it's great to see what, I guess, good preparation that has given you to be able to, you all to handle a situation like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned, saving for the rainy day. That's so important. So I started at California Coast in 2009. And if you remember 2009, we were just at the beginning of a recession. It was pretty hairy recession, not a lot of fun. And I remember at that time starting here at California Coast first as a CFO, and we were cutting, coffee. We weren't providing coffee to employees in our headquarters or in our branches, and no bottled water. We had furlough days. We were doing a lot of the same things that a lot of organizations were doing just to survive and just to make it through the recession. And I remember, during those times saying, we're not going to let this happen again. We are going to save for that rainy day. We're going to prepare for it and plan for it as best we can. And by the way, we weren't perfect. We've learned a lot of things through this pandemic crisis, but financially, we got ourselves in great shape. And so we're able to do these things for an extended period of time. And it's really paid off. And in some ways, it's set us apart from some of our other employers in the San Diego County area. A lot of great things going on out there, don't get me wrong. But we're happy about what we're able to do. And we're looking at what more we can do to help out both our members and our employees.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's just, I think, also a tribute to your leadership, because it takes a leader to really have that vision and to think about others in a time of crisis like this. So well done.
No, thank you. I will tell you, so it's interesting because we share all this good news with our employees, and they thank me. You know, I'll go out to visit one of our branches to see how they're doing and talk with them and see them face to face, of course, you know, 6 feet apart, but you know, and I'm going out to our call center. I'm trying to touch base with all of our employees. We have a lot of remote workers now, and I'd be happy to talk about that. But, and it's interesting, they thank me for taking these actions, and I'm thanking them. I'm like, you shouldn't be thanking me. I'm thanking you. You're the one that's showing up for work every day. You have the kid, your child that's now at home, you're trying to teach, and a lot of strain on your family, and yet you're coming into work every day. And that's for our branches where you have a physical location. And then our remote workers, you know, they're online and they're working to help our members. So the thanks really go to them. And for me, it just totally energizes me. When I go out to talk to them and see them, you know, I just get totally energized, and you know, it's a great thing.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, again, kudos, and I mean, just great job. I know, you know, a lot of small businesses, you know, us included, we're a very new small business, just 2 years in, and so we're obviously learning a lot through this too. But it's, you know, it's also nice to hear that previously some of the experience that you went through back in 2009 kind of prepared you, you know, for the future. And I know that'll definitely, I know one of our big takeaways as a business, and I'm sure many others, is just to obviously realize that these things can and do happen over long periods of time, and just to really make sure that you can be as first as possible for them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when we onboard new employees to this organization, to California Coast, I always make a point of talking to every one of those classes, every one of those groups of employees, and it really makes me think back, because we haven't onboarded any new employees recently. I mean, just maybe a couple, certainly since the pandemic. But one thing that I always share with them is, you know, we really need to put financial services in perspective with life and with other things that go on in life. And, you know, people's money is important. I mean, all you have to do is lose it and you'll know how important it is. And we don't lose it, right? You know, we're insured, those sorts of things. So, but people's money is so important. And we need to make sure that we understand that. You know, we're able to do some unique things and occasionally make a mistake. Now, we don't want to make the same mistake twice, but, you know, we can do a lot of great things to help out people with their money. But the real heroes in this, and I always point at the end of the street, we're in Kearney Mesa, there's a fairly new Kaiser hospital very close to us, and that emergency room, those are the true heroes. Those are the people saving lives. So guess what? We're all in banking, and some people call us bankers, but we need to lighten up. You see, I'm not buttoned down. I'm not wearing a suit today. Of course, nobody's here to see it, so, you know, I suppose there's no reason to. But anyways, we just need to lighten up, have a little fun at work, even during stressful times, and enjoy what we do, and take our job seriously. But again, we're not saving lives at California Coast Credit Union. We're helping lives. That's really what we're doing.
Excellent point.
Yeah, great advice. So Todd, to kind of switch gears, and you touched on it a little bit in the beginning, you said you're noticing a lot of your members have some different behaviors, and, you know, we're seeing a lot of different things right now. So how has this whole situation impacted the way that consumers are banking currently?
So great question. And what we're seeing is customers or members are shifting their banking towards the mobile device. You can do online banking and mobile banking. You can do almost any transaction that you could in a branch, you know, absent a signature. But so we're seeing a shift in transaction volume to the mobile platform. That's really the preferred platform. And we still, as I mentioned, we still have our branches open, and we still have customers, members coming into those branches to do transactions. And what we're sort of, the shift that we have is trying to educate them quickly, again, keeping the social distancing, on how to do that same transaction that they came in the branch for on their mobile device or at the ATM machine or on their home computer, or even calling up. We still have a call center, and they can call up and do their transactions over the phone. So instead of that in-branch experience, we're trying to get them away from the teller line and the teller counter, and finding other ways to do transactions. And it's been very successful. So California Coast, like a lot of banks and credit unions, have during this coronavirus pandemic, we've limited our branch traffic. So that means we have what are called lobby managers now, and the lobby manager and our security guards out front, and they are trying to catch the member before they even come into the branch and asking them about the nature of their transaction, what they need to do. And then if we know of a way that they can do that without stepping inside the branch, we'll help them do it. We'll take them to an ATM machine. There's always one right there. We'll use our phone or ask them to take out their smartphone, and that's how we'll sort of help them or coach them through the transaction. So there's been a complete sort of shift in behavior. Now, it's interesting, we do have some people coming in still insisting upon depositing that $4.71 rebate check that they got in the mail, whereas they could use a mobile deposit, but they insist on coming in the branch. And so you're always going to see some of that. You're always going to see branch traffic around a payday, you know, people cashing checks, that sort of thing. So, you know, that is always going to be there. There's always going to be branches, and it's important to us and our membership that the branches remain open and that we're there to service the customer. But again, we're trying to get them used to these other ways of doing business. Now, also, I should tell you, when they're coming into the branch, people are very interested in cash right now, as you might imagine. They want to hold cash, and that's fine. We can, you know, they can withdraw money out of their account and we'll give them cash. And, you know, we're wearing gloves in the branches, and we're going to put that cash in an envelope for them so they don't have to touch the cash. Quite often I get asked, is cash clean? Is it sanitized? And the answer is no, it is not, as you might imagine. So don't handle cash if you don't have to. And if you have to, put some gloves on or use sanitizer afterwards or wash your hands, that sort of thing. You don't know whose hands that cash has been in. But so early on during the stay-at-home mandate here in California, we got a lot of people coming in asking for cash because they were worried about the payment systems, whether or not their debit card and credit card was going to continue to be effective and used. And the answer is yes. And in fact, very stable payment rails. You're always going to be able to use your debit and credit card. And by the way, your debit and credit card are a lot cleaner than cash, and you can clean that with, you know, a disinfectant as much as you like. So we're actually encouraging people to use the plastic rather than the cash, but knowing that they're still going to want some cash.
That's good advice. And that holds true for cash anytime, regardless of whether we're in a pandemic or not, that you should always wash your hands after handling cash. So a lot of common sense stuff that we've always been telling people now, you know, they should heed more than ever. So thank you for pointing that out.
Exactly. It's funny you get that question. They when they get cash out of the ATM, I get asked, is the cash out of the ATM cleaner than the cash in the branch? And the answer is no. Don't you know, expect any cash. You know, it's not laundered, it's not cleaned. But there's things that There's things that we can do also at the ATM machine, which people don't think about. So they go to, and I shouldn't say ATM machine because ATM is automatic teller machine. So at the ATM, they are cleaned. So we have them serviced on a regular basis by a third party, and then we clean them ourselves each day. But here's the thing, it's being used multiple times during the day. So if you're going to use an ATM, you put a glove on, and if you don't have a glove, grab a pen or pencil. Use that pen or pencil on the keypad instead of your fingers. And just be aware there's been lots of fingers on those keypads. So just simple things like that we can do, just common sense things to keep ourselves safe, from the pandemic and from coronavirus. So
great points. Thank you. Stuff that we've been saying every day. So I appreciate you reiterating it and making those points. Let's talk a little bit about this $2 trillion stimulus bill that was just passed. Tell us a little bit about that. I know it's, I think, a 900-page document or something to that effect. Can you boil it down for the rest of us?
Yeah, so there is a business provision. I mean, there's many, many parts to it, many pieces to that stimulus bill, but a big chunk of the money is going to go to small businesses. And we actually have a third-party partnership with an organization that for small businesses, and I think the threshold for that particular stimulus bill, the CARES Act, was 500 employees or less. And but there's money earmarked to small businesses and certain qualifications that they have to meet. So that's a piece of it. The piece of it that most of us are interested in, that most consumers are interested in, is what's going to come to us individually. And so it's $1,200 per person, and it's for those making $75,000 or less, and then it changes or it decreases gradually up to $99,000. And then for married filing jointly, so for couples, it's doubled, and those limits are doubled. So at $150,000, it graduates down up to $200,000 in household income. And then there's a $500 add-on for those with minors, and I think it's 17 or under. So now the question that we get most often is, when is that money going to come, and how are we going to get it? And we only have answers to one of those questions, and we don't know when it's going to come. If you follow the news and not sure what to believe, we've heard up to 8 weeks. That's just simply too long, in our opinion. It's got to be much quicker than that. So we're hopeful it's going to be sooner than that. But the money's going to come in form of a direct deposit and or a check. So it depends on how you received your tax refunds. If it was by direct deposit, then it would come in direct deposit. So if you had your tax refund direct deposit to California Coast Credit Union, it's going to show up in your account. Again, we don't know when that's going to happen, or you're going to get a check. So we're starting to see some fraud emerge in this area. As you would expect, the fraudsters are always quick to be out there and to try and take advantage of a situation. They prey on those of us that are distracted by all this information, everything that's going on in the world. We don't have a lot of time to look at that email, study that email, or pay attention to that phone call that we get on our cell phone. And so we're starting to see some scams where they're telling you can get your money quicker or sooner, and they'll help you do it. And simply don't fall for those things. The government's not going to call you to help you get your money quicker. So don't fall for those things. They'll ask you for your credentials, your banking credentials, your credit union credentials to get into your account. They're going to steal your money. So we need to, it's buyer beware. If it sounds too good to be true, it is not true. And so we can't fall for those things. We should never give out our credentials, our online mobile banking credentials, over the phone. If somebody's asking you for that, it's probably a scam. It's highly likely. Hang up the phone and call us directly and say, hey, did you call? What do you need my banking credentials for? And they're going to tell you we don't, and it wasn't from us. And then also, if you get an email and they want you to click on a button to, go to a place where you can get your money sooner. And by the way, there's lots of scams related to this pandemic crisis. But on this particular scam, they're trying to suggest that you can get your money sooner. You click on this button, and guess what? Malware is going to be downloaded in your computer. They're going to get your credentials next time you type it in, or if you store it on your computer, and off they go. They want your money. They want to separate you from your money, and that's what they're all about. It's unfortunate that this happens, but we see it all the time. It's very frequent. I tell anybody who will listen, a lot of times our representatives in Washington, D.C. or at the state level, if you knew what our fraud losses were because of these sort of scams on an annual basis, it would scare you to death. We could open up another branch in a new community that needs to be served every year, absent these sort of scams that we see. And so it's very costly to both the consumer and the banking institution like California Coast Credit Union.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's really good advice. I think that, it's really important to, it sounds like basically you'll receive a check or a direct deposit, but nobody should be calling you and asking you for any banking information. And if they do, basically hang up, call your local bank, and just definitely do not give any of that out.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the be suspicious. I think people naturally are suspicious, but when it comes to, something that's too good to be true, they're not as suspicious, which is sort of, odd, but happens all the time. So yeah, be suspicious, hang up the phone.
That's crazy. Yeah. And emails too. I think, that's another area that people need to be careful of. I mean, the phone, not everyone's picking up their phone as much these days, but it's those emails that are made to look exactly like they're coming from your bank that you need to be wary of. So, yeah.
And text messages too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all forms now.
Yeah. How do you see the banks, how do you see us all recovering from this? We are going to recover eventually. What's your perfect vision of how you'd like to see it play out? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you see as being the future after this experience for all of us?
Yeah, well, so during the crisis, during this situation, I think the first thing to recovery is doing the right thing today. And that's something that we focus on all the time. So we have what's called a crisis management team. We meet every morning at 8:30. We're in all different locations. Sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm at home, sometimes in a branch. But anyways, we're talking about what's going on today, what's right in front of us today. And our objective is, whatever it is, to do the right thing by our employee and the right thing by our member. So I think the road to recovery is doing the right thing today. So, I can't forecast the future, but I know what I can control that's right in front of me today. Now, in terms of planning for the future, we're planning for a long, sustainable pandemic crisis. We're ready for the long term. That's what we're planning for. Based upon what we know today and what's in front of us, we don't see it going into 2021 necessarily. We hope not. We're optimistic that it's not, but that's what we're planning for. I think it's, preparation for a financial institution is very important, because we talked about earlier, people's money is important. So they need to have access to their money, and it needs to be insured. It needs to be safe. And, so that's important to us. So that's the planning piece. That's sort of what we're preparing for. But what we think is going to happen and we listen to the same news that everybody else listens to, is that we're going to see some sort of peak in coronavirus and the cases in our county and in our state, and then it's going to be on the decline. And the important part is, when is that going to happen? Now, I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. Like I said, we are prepared for the long run, but we're hopeful it is 6 to 12 weeks out maximum. And then the question is how quickly the economy and consumers and small businesses can bounce back. If it is 12 weeks, another 12 weeks, are small businesses going to be able to bounce back quickly? That's the $164,000 question, or in their case, it's $1 million question, depending on how many employees they have. We know that the consumers, we can help out. Our members, we can help out that long and even longer. So we know the consumers are going to be okay with that. I mentioned earlier a 90-day mortgage payment deferment. So that's 3 months worth of mortgage payments you don't have to make. And it's effectively put on the back end of your loan, right? Or a car loan or a credit card payment. So with us, we're helping our members out for the long term. It's that the small businesses that have to pay their employees, that have to pay their vendors, that have to pay their landlords, that we're very, very concerned about. And I don't want to diminish the renters also. That's an important issue. When we look at some of the things that the city of San Diego has done for small businesses, wonderful stuff. They had a $6 million small business relief fund. It's already been oversubscribed. I know they're working on other things, so there's been lots of things for the small businesses, but how long can they last is the key question in my mind. And so the longer we go, obviously, the more difficult it's going to be for them to recover quickly, to open the doors quickly on their business. And if that doesn't happen, then it has sort of domino effects, meaning they employ lots of people. We have over 90% of the employers in San Diego County are small businesses. And so if they are damaged permanently, how are we going to recover? It's going to take a much longer period of time to recover. So anyways, I've said a lot of stuff, but it's hard to say how long this is going to last. We're trying to help our members for the long term, and we know we can. Again, I talked about earlier sort of the financial shape that we're in and planning for a rainy day. So we're okay with the long term. We don't want it to be long term. We want to get back to things like they were, but so it's if I knew the answer to the question, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But we do our best. It's what I could say, and we want to help people. We're doing emergency loans for our members. We're doing the mortgage deferrals. We've waived fees, so fees that normally get paid by consumers, we're waiving. They don't have to pay some of them, like accessing their money, ATM fees. We shouldn't be charging for those sorts of things. People to get their money during this sort of crisis. So we're waiving access fees and that sort of thing. And it's just the right thing to do. And so I couldn't exactly answer your question, but that was my best shot at it.
That's a very hopeful response, actually. It's nice to hear that you guys are trying so hard, the best you can, and that's really all we can do at this point. And not knowing what the future is, treating every day and handling it the best we can is all we can do right now.
Yeah, I really encourage, and the business community has been great here in San Diego in stepping up. Those businesses that are still, open for business, that are still making money and have strong reserves and are in good financial condition. I think we really need to help each other out. We need to help out the small businesses We need to help out the other organizations in our community, whether they're a nonprofit or a for-profit. We got to keep them collectively. We have to keep them going. And to ignore that, I think is a huge mistake. It hurts us all in the end. I talked about the employee and the consumer being interconnected. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but connected. Our success as an employee can only happen if our customers, our members are successful. And the same thing in business. If our small businesses are not successful here, I don't think large businesses can be successful. I don't think any employer can. So I think we need to help each other out. And we have stepped up to do that. And we encourage others to do the same. And there's been lots of very large organizations. SDG is a great example of an organization that consistently steps up and does the right thing to serve this community. And we applaud that type of company like SDG&E.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely, I know that's our message too, is, getting through this together and really helping each other and, supporting each other in every way that we can. And it's nice to hear that, on the financial side of things, that's kind of really, I think, probably the overall message, on the back end, especially in your branch and, and with Calcos. So thank you for sharing all of that. We really appreciate just kind of knowing it. I think it makes a lot of people feel better knowing that you can kind of trust the man behind the bank walls.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because, it's interesting that, it's a sort of a pet peeve of mine. When I realized younger that I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player, I decided to get into finance and banking. When I was growing up, it was not a sin to be a banker. It wasn't, a lot of times, especially younger folks think Wall Street's bad. We hear Wall Street this, Wall Street that. Well, your local bank, community bank, and your local credit union, and San Diego is very much a credit union community, believe it or not, more so than any metropolitan area in the country. But, we're the same as everybody else. We're doing the right thing. We just happen to choose a profession in banking. And we're not the big Wall Street type, and we're all, doing the right thing. And I always tell younger people when I have an opportunity to I've talked to a senior class at several different schools, including the high school that I went to here in San Diego, about looking into banking as a career or finance as a career. A lot of them, when I ask them what they're interested in terms of a career, it's all the sexy stuff, cybersecurity and high-tech, biotech, and all these great professions, and those are great things to do. But for young people, there's a great opportunity to get into banking. This is sort of my sales pitch, because there's so few young people interested in banking these days. And I think it's a profession where you can make a difference at the local level and regional level, and you won't get lost. You're not one of hundreds of thousands of employees. You can make a difference, become a leader, and be successful and feel good about what you do. And what better way to change the image of banking than to do something about it yourself and get involved and choose that as a career. So not sure they all listen to me, but I encourage them all the time. I tell them about credit unions. Credit unions were born out of the community. Our credit union was started by 3 teachers in the San Diego Unified School District that wanted a banking organization just for teachers originally. And so our roots were San Diego Teachers Credit Union almost 91 years ago. We're the oldest financial institution in town. And so I tell young people, I tell anybody that will listen, credit unions are a wonderful thing. We were born out of the community. We need to look like the community, and we need to serve the community. Our bottom line in how we serve the community is just as important as the bottom line on our profit and loss statement. And and our organization takes that to heart. We measure that as much as we do anything else. We report on that to our volunteer board of directors. And our success is defined by service to the community. So what better thing for a young person than to get involved in something like that?
Thank you so much, Todd. I agree. Can you tell us a little bit more about where people can get additional resources or information on financial counseling and anything else they might need? And then we can also post this in the notes afterwards.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. So we have free financial counseling that we do for our members. So you'd have to join the credit union, but we do it for free. And we've been doing this forever, not just during this crisis, but we'll do it over the phone now. We don't do it in person. So we do it over the phone or use Go to My PC or other applications where we can talk to the member directly, but it's free. We'll help them budget their money. And so the best place to go to learn about California Coast Credit Union and what we do in that area is at our website, www.calcoastcu.org. So CALCOASTCU.org. And you'll see a tab, it's a financial counseling. And so we have some wonderful folks that work in that area, and I love the work they do. I often hear from those members. In fact, we had one in right before the pandemic crisis broke out. It was in January. We did a social media piece with her. She started in financial counseling, I want to say about almost a decade ago, and really in the beginning was ignoring it. Really didn't take it seriously. She had low credit scores, single mother, and just was in financial dire. And so she initially ignored it. And Tara Lynn, one of our financial counselors, who's just wonderful, she's been with us a long time, eventually re-engaged her. And it took the members, the single mother's effort to re-engage us. And we worked with her over a couple of years, getting her finances in order, worked hand in hand, and she got to the point where she had a very high credit score and was able to finance her first car on her own without any help from anybody. And her daughter now is 10 years old. She actually came in with her mother and was well on her way to saving to buy her own home someday. And that's the sort of thing that we do and several other credit unions do. And so, but you got to be ready for it. And, you gotta put in as much work as necessary to get to that point. And it's always small steps, financial counseling and getting our finances in order. It may be paying off debt. It may be putting a budget together. It may be looking at those expenses. We always talk about wants versus needs. And this is, by the way, a great time to look at wants versus needs. And sometimes consumers can't separate the two. And the needs are things like our rent payment, putting food on the table, putting gas in the car. Those are needs. You have to have those things and you have to plan for those things. The wants, this is a time to look at the wants and cut those out if you can. Do you really need cable TV bill that's $270 a month? And, what are the other things, the services that you subscribe to, perhaps a music service or something like that? Are there things that we can cut back on during these times? And so put them in those two buckets, wants versus needs, and then focus on the wants first, and and we'll help you with it.
Yeah, well, that's really, really good advice, and I think and also a good dose of hope too. That was a great story. I think a lot of people are definitely looking forward, to getting past this. I'm sure many are going to be learning and making some changes to hopefully their budgeting and their lifestyle. But also, I think it's just nice to know that those resources are available. Some important things that, I'm trying to communicate is, contact your local banks, contact the mortgage companies, like you said, do some of that work, be one of the ones to reach out to them. I think most everybody, is trying to help, and everyone, we're in this together. And I think that that's pretty much a universal message at this point. and trying to avoid obviously the scams and, the payday loans, and thinking about, is this going to make it harder later versus, being able to get back to so-called normal, what the new normal will be sooner rather than later, and just not making it harder for ourselves down the road. So thank you so much. All of your advice has just been really, really helpful and really great.
Yeah, we're happy to help. But you mentioned something that's so important. Don't be afraid to reach out, and we got to face this head on together. And I think some consumers are afraid to call their bank or credit union because they're afraid of being told no. And don't assume that they're going to defer your mortgage payment. Don't assume that they're going to defer anything. Don't assume that they're going to waive your fee. Call them up and make sure, and ask them about it. Everybody's not out there publishing their programs necessarily, or you may not be aware of it. We try and send emails to every one of our members telling them about it, but people are deleting emails as fast as they receive them. So yeah, pick up that phone and reach out, and don't be afraid to ask for that help.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Todd. So much wise advice today. I mean, everything you've said, it's been great. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, and just keep up the great work, and thank you.
And you too. We learning about your organization. I'm so impressed. I got a chance to look at your website really quick, and it looks like great stuff. And thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you. Have a great day. Stay safe and well, you and your family, and all your employees.
All right. Thank you. You take care.